Hello everyone, my name is Kendra Hanslik and I am a PhD student at the University of Wisconsin-Madison pursuing my neuroscience degree with the neuroscience training program. So today we'll be discussing the different types of cells that you can find within your brain. The first cell that probably comes to mind is the neuron. And the neuron sends chemical and electrical signals to surrounding cells. So they're actually the longest and oldest neurons that you can find within your body, and you have about 100 billion of them when you're born. So interesting fact is that as you age, these cells aren't actually replaced. So when you get older, you actually have fewer neurons than when you were first born. And one of the longest neurons found within the body is the primary afferent neuron. It extends from the skin to your spinal cord and all the way up into your brainstem. That's a pretty long neuron. So the main components of the neuron will be one of the first things that we'll be discussing. First, we have the soma, or the cell body, which is this purple pipe cleaner that holds genetic information, maintains the neuron's structure, and provides energy to drive the cell's activities. We then have the axon, which is this black pipe cleaner, and the axon carries the electrical chemical signals from the soma to the synaptic terminal. And sometimes they're covered by myelin sheath, which is this yellow pipe cleaner. And what the myelin sheath does, it actually increases the conduction velocity of the signal. So the signal is sent from the soma to the terminal at a faster speed to protect the integrity of the signal, to make sure that it doesn't deteriorate before it is sent to the next neuron. And then we have the dendrites, which is this turquoise pipe cleaner. So the dendrites actually receive and process information from other neurons. And then one of the last components is the synaptic terminal. So the synaptic terminal is where the signal is delivered into another cell through the means of a synapse. So to more appropriately demonstrate, you may have a synaptic terminal that forms a junction with a part on the dendrite. This will receive the information, process it, and send it on to another cell or another neuron. So at these junctions, you can find all types of neurotransmitters that are released. A few of the examples would include endorphins, dopamine, GABA, serotonin. All of these neurotransmitters are responsible for you feeling happy, for you feeling safe in your environment or not. It's responsible for that fight or flight response that you feel. And that's just a few examples. There's so many other neurotransmitters that are all responsible for driving your actions in your environment. So now another thing to remember is that these signals aren't just sent willy-nilly. You need to be able to have control within this system. So one of the ways they do that is through the Axon Hillock, which is responsible for, it acts as a manager, basically. So the Axon Hillock is between the junction of the soma and the start of the axon. And what it does, it manages whether or not a signal is strong enough based off of input from other surrounding neurons and the signals that are coming from within the cell. It determines if it meets the threshold, and if it is over a certain threshold, it sends an action potential to fire a signal to the neighboring cell. While neurons are important, they wouldn't be able to function without the vital roles from accompanying glial cells. And the number of glial cells in your brain compared to the number of neurons is increased by a factor of 10. So in simple math terms, if you have about 10 neurons, that means you have about 100 glial cells. Now imagine that on the scale of billions. It's a pretty substantial amount. There are several types of glial cells. So we will start with the most numerous type of glial cell in your brain, and that would be the astrocyte. So the glial cells all have a cell body and processes that protrude or retract through like a neural substrate, depending on the signals that they sense within their environment. So astrocytes actually interact with capillaries and other neurons in the CNS. They perform a host of functions. To name a few, they help regulate blood flow within the brain, provide nutrients to neurons, and structural support for synapses. So these are pretty important to glial cells. There are also oligodendrocytes, and these are responsible for forming the myelin sheath on the neuron. So remember, that would be these yellow things, and that is what was responsible for increasing the conduction velocity from the soma to the synaptic terminal. And then one of the last glial cells that we'll cover is the microglia. So microglia are pretty cool cells. You can think of them as janitors in your system. They basically go through and clean up toxins, toxic protein aggregates, and dead cells that are found within your brain, and protect you from pathogens that may cause your body harm. So we definitely need these guys. Anyways, thank you for your attention. I hope you learned some pretty interesting facts about the different types of cells that you find within your brain.